All right, let's kick off. Let's have some fun here. I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute. I want to highlight some of our crew that's joining us today. We have Seth and Dallas and Wesley talking to us today about a project they did. And I'll tell you guys, like, this is awesome project. It's just I feel like I'm doing 8 things at a time. Lydia, help me how'd I do? There we go. Welcome to this Thursday weekly briefing. It's good to be with you all today. I am being joined by Seth and Wesley and Dallas, and I think Joel's going to join us in a minute here. He's having some Wi-Fi problems or something related to a hurricane in the south, but we'll see if we can get him on too. It is November 10th, and this is the one time a week we kind of just put aside and talk about some big picture items. And my crew that's joining me today, they've done something that we don't get to see it very often, where there's some great collaboration and some work they've done. And then I have like 100 questions about why you did this project, what it is, and where it goes from here. But I thought I'd start off by just sharing it. Lydia, you can share the link with everyone so that they can see it, but I'm going to play this video for all of us. Maybe. Yeah. And just watch what you guys did. So let's start off with the play-by-play. Here we go.
Synthesizers are strange and magical machines. They may look complicated, but the sounds they make are built from relatively simple parts. It all starts with an electrical signal that gets translated into sound. The basic tone of this sound is a repeating waveform generated by something called an oscillator. The shape of this wave determines what it sounds like. The timbre can be changed with a filter, which cuts out certain frequencies. The shape of a note can be altered by an envelope. An LFO, or low-frequency oscillator, is like the oscillator, but slower and too low to hear. It can be used to control things like the pitch, or the filter, or the volume. These 4 parts make a complete synthesizer. From here, the possibilities are endless.
This one gets good right here.
To make your own synth music, start simple. Then, just follow your curiosity.
Yeah, so great. Do I have to play all the credits? You guys mind? Yes.
I was wondering if you'd have the guts to turn off the credits in front of Seth.
Oh, no.
Who do I have to get through in the credits before I can actually turn off the credits?
No, you're good. You're good.
Great job, guys. I think that is just such an interesting piece. It clearly comes from some like mind and collaboration of education, understanding, format. Feels like it's an evangelist tool too, just getting people interested in it. Who started this project off? Which was the first of you to get things started?
I think it's interesting. I feel like, Wes, chime in whenever, but I know Wes and I, gosh, we started a friendship on Vimeo, I think in 2012, I think was when we began that. But yeah, no, him and I, we've been, longtime friends and wanting to work on something together. I was speaking with him, I think it was around this time actually last year. And we knew that we were going to try to do some type of fun work within the year that was going to be just for us. And he had a grand idea for a project about synthesizers. And I know nothing about synthesizers, but Wes graciously bought me one of these bad boys, which might have started an addiction. I play with it quite often now. But yeah, I mean, from that, we, I guess we just kind of dove into just trying to figure out what and how we could do it, since like with synthesizers, there's billions of entry points, it feels like. I don't know, Wes, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, also, Seth and I were reconnecting because we hadn't worked together in a while, and Seth was telling me like, oh, we haven't had audio for a lot of projects because they're for apps or something like that, and thought, oh, it'd be really fun to do something together. But I think pretty quickly we're like, okay, well, like, it'd be cool to do something where the sound and the music and the animation are all like really closely linked. And we wanted to do something that wasn't just like an art piece. We wanted it to have some kind of like utility outside of our industry, because there's a lot of opportunities to do something that looks really pretty and sounds really pretty, but it doesn't really mean anything to anybody if you're not in motion graphics. And so I came back, was like, could we make something about synthesizers? And yeah, that's really what started it out.
I like Jay's comment. He says, where was this video when I was in 6th grade, starting out with my Yamaha DX21 and not knowing what any of this stuff meant, right?
Jay, that would have been a half an hour animation for us to try to explain the basics of
It totally works that way.
And speaking to the why portion of things too, and I know what's exciting about getting to collaborate with Dallas as well was we wanted to try to target an audience that would have interest with it, and Wes had a relationship with Dallas, and it's pretty cool. Dallas, before I had met you through this project, I didn't know that you had also had some runnings in with the Rev Thing folks as well, and also our neighbor at our office are good buddies with Dallas as well. So it seemed like a match kind of made in heaven. And then I don't know, Dallas, do you want to speak to some of the podcast stuff maybe, and then how we threaded some of that stuff in?
Yeah. Who's your neighbor again?
AJ Hohalter.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's interesting. That's a side convo.
Yes.
So I have a podcast. It's been out for over 6 years now. I think it's been 6 years. And what's interesting is I look at this and I'm incredibly flattered that I get to put my voice on it. Over on the podcast, this is kind of what I've already been doing for 6.5 years in the audio form. Really highly crafted audio, geared toward normal people. So the way that I think about it is that we celebrate our senses in visuals. Anyone can have an opinion on visuals. Food networks and food shows and this, that, and the other. So like our sense of taste is celebrated. Touch, smell are celebrated, and huge businesses. With sound, it's kind of like music and nothing else. And so I wanted to make something that celebrated sound on kind of a sensory fundamental level, and so started the podcast 6.5 years ago to do that. And over the course of that time, that's kind of built its picked up its own level of steam in that world. That's where Wesley and I started to interact more. So Wesley's doing a lot of the original music on the podcast now, which is just so good. And so that's how we kind of all started to go, okay, maybe, we do this all together.
Yeah, I felt like it was such on brand to the 20,000 Hertz podcast. Almost, because I'm familiar with the podcast. When it started, I felt like I was watching a visual version of something I'm just used to hearing alongside. And I think that collaboration between you guys kind of matches the brand and the opportunity completely. But this one inspired me differently because it made me want to go grab a synthesizer or grab, I'm sure something exists on my computer somewhere that I could start playing with it. But the objects within it, or how those variables work when it comes to sound to make a new sound, is one of those creative outputs I think we all enjoy. There's something about music that we appreciate, especially someone that finds a good beat, finds a great tune, get something that sticks in your head. And who doesn't want to be a person that discovered one of those tunes that everybody knows and gets to share? So the inspiration there, I'm sure that's what was one of the movements here, is like, how do we inspire people to love something we love? Wes, where's the start with you then? Like because you're the one surrounded by all these knobs and lights and whatever. I feel like
Yeah.
You've animated what's sitting on your desk a little bit here.
Yeah. So sorry. So do you mean kind of like what's my background with synthesizers, or?
Yeah. When you think about this as a tool, are you there to draw people in? Is that some of what your hope is with this piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's kind of two things that we wanted to do with the piece. Like on the one level, it was like from a career standpoint, we wanted to make something that like we pushed the boundaries of like what we could do. Because I love synthesizers, but I've worked with motion, done sound and music for motion graphics for like 10 years now, and so really trying to push the boundaries of like how interlocked can we make a piece. How much can like the sound not just be like enhancing something that's there, but like part of the communication. So there was like that part of it, and then definitely the synthesizer part where I've used like software synthesizers for a long time, but have in the last like few years gotten more into hardware synthesizers and taking them more seriously. And for me right now, since I use them in my work, but like this thing here is like really great for when I want to make music that's not work. I turn away from my computer and I just start patching things, and I don't have any expectation of what it has to be or what it has to do. And synthesizers are so great for that because, like a lot of times when I'm making music on this, like I don't play a single key on a keyboard. It's like, okay, I have one small idea. Well, okay, cool. There's that. Okay, well, what happens if I do this? And then I add this. Oh, what if it goes like this? Oh, maybe I'll go backwards a little bit. And it's just sort of like following like at the end of the video, we said like, follow your curiosity. That process of making music to me is like so inspiring and fun. And I feel like it's really accessible to people because you don't have to understand music theory. You don't have to like have the ability to play the piano or, play a wind instrument or something. It's something that like anybody can, you kind of discover music almost rather than create it.
Yeah. And the tools that you have remind me of like a 7th grade, science project, those little pegboards or whatever. I think
Yeah.
Joel, you were like into music into the junior high years, right? You're an early synthesizer kind of a guy, aren't you?
Yes. Hi, guys. Apologies. I'm calling in from Savannah where the tropical storm has messed with the internet down here. Yeah, it's funny, but Ted, you should not use the past tense because I'm still a bit of a keyboard and music and synth nerd. But here's the thing. The question I was going to ask you guys, and by the way, to all three of you, is when I see work like this, of course, we are all like, wow, it's so inspiring creatively. I want to ask like the other side of the spectrum question called, yeah, but we're all running businesses, right? So sure, we can create all this amazing stuff, but we built businesses to do projects for clients. And when I see stuff like this, I can't help but think, and of course, I know some of the behind the scenes here. It's really expensive and it's really hard to produce this stuff. So as much as I'm inspired by it, I'm also super curious just to ask what maybe other people are wondering is, yeah, but from a business standpoint, why do it?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question. So what's in it for you? So who should I pick on? Seth, should I start with you? Or Dallas?
Yeah, I can maybe answer that one. From my perspective, of course, we've all made businesses that have, desire to have income with clients and things like that. I feel like, the furrow, at least what I would love to do and what would love to continue to do is really just do more work that is really just for us. Work that, inspires us in the things that we're interested in. I mean, curiosity, I love that was a part of this work here, but truly at the core of who I am and who we are is just really wanting to explore new things. I mean, we're always wanting to create new things. We're always pressing, wherever we can with our clients, but, to not have a client per se is kind of like the dream scenario. And I know like even a part of our origin story was just trying to build collaborations truly to just get to work with the people that I admired. Transitioning to freelance to business ownership, it was all about like, how can I work with these people that don't know who I am? And, I would love to learn from them. I'd love to just see how they do things and just make cool stuff. So in light of that, I mean, we've had a couple collaborations in the past where we funded them ourselves. This one in particular, we knew we wanted to have the answer why behind it a little bit. And, I feel like I really lucked out a lot. I mean, on the team on this thing across the board, I can't toot their horns enough on this. But from a funding standpoint, we did things a little differently. Over the past year and over the course of any client project that we have, we actually shave a little bit off the top every single time. And there's a bucket that's always filling with money. Of course, there's times when that has to be used for other things, but, we had a really great year and we had a decent cash flow. And we thought, hey, this would be a great project to invest in for us. And what we've come to find too is that, as far as marketing ourselves and putting ourselves out there, this has more impact than any kind of cold sales or outreach or anything like that. I feel like I might be stealing your words, Dallas. I feel like it was you that said this, but clients want to buy the cool thing that you made. And I feel like in this instance, my hope is that will be true. But at the end of the day, I feel like the reward has already been received from my end, just getting to work with all the amazing people that we worked with and getting to make something that we're all really, really proud of.
Yeah, Dallas, I feel like I'm seeing some of your influence from your own journey of like you made something that you love and it had legs to it. And when you do on a project like this, it's just an expression of something you want to accomplish. Are you feeling like that's that magic is true?
Yeah, so I jotted down a few of the bullet points that I think is really important for everyone to hear. I'll start with stuff that maybe I've said before in the past, but one of the things that I had heard, and I don't know what book this came from, was great companies know how to capitalize off of their waste. And so 7-8 years ago, I thought, what's the waste in my company? The waste and the drag is when we don't have client work and we have unbilled time. And when we have unbilled time and we're slow, everyone in the studio is pinging me to say, hey, what should we work on? What should we work on? What should we work on? Meanwhile, I'm inside on fire trying to figure out where the next paycheck is coming from. So the waste was we didn't have, when people were sitting on their hands, it wasn't just backing up stuff. It wasn't sweeping the floor. It was like, we're going to make a thing for us that's always in perpetual motion, that when we're slow, it's always that. So for 7 years, we don't have unbilled time at all, top to bottom, because 20,000 Hertz has turned into our, I think our second biggest client, which is just ourselves, which is really nice for just like my gut. So that being one, it makes everyone on the team think like writers and creative people and the people that we service and who they service. So it forces everyone to be thinking on a very high level. It was 20,000 Hertz also allowed for me to make myself a client, make myself a director, make myself a writer. It also when you make stuff that's real and authentic and from your heart for no marketing gain, clients start to see you as on their level, if not even exceeding that, because they're also working for their own clients and what they've been paid to do.
That puts you in their shoes, doesn't it? Like, it's so interesting to live in your client's shoes just for a minute, even on a project that's your own, but just to remind yourself the kind of issues and decisions they're making and to do it. So yeah, I'd
even go further than that, because in a lot of ways we're even leapfrogging who we're working for, because they're working for a major company that have their own agendas. So like everyone has a boss, but it's pretty cool in our side that just like we come into on an equal footing. This also making stuff for myself re-inspired myself. I started getting really burned out. And when I'm burned out, I turn to the stuff that I love making, like an artist would. It gets me out of that pick me cycle, because when we're slow, we just are always full bore on our actual content, real stuff. And yeah, so it's like, it's just a lot of little pieces. And then we go way back and we look at like why we even do this. I don't think anyone, when we kind of started getting into this, started going like, oh, I just want to work for like a bunch of clients with a bunch of money, and then just be completely subservient to them forever. It's like when I started making original content, like a flame that already was there that was almost extinguished, just bubbled up and just blew up again. And so it's just such a joy to like have full control over something that you're actually like making.
There's a risk factor in this thing though too, right? Because I can tell you from a point of view where I talk to a lot of business owners, and the inspiration and the desire to make their own stuff, it's really common. It's why I have the show launcher program that I do with clients, walking them through starting with why you would need to make content, and then where and who, and therefore what should I make is the last decision, instead of starting with what. But the risk factor here is, one, you're spending a lot of money and making a project that actually is not that great. And so you don't have the calling card after that effort and work. So there's the edge that you guys have here is that I think the collaboration you put together allowed for a little bit of iron sharpening iron and letting the community know what's good and keep it good instead of hoarding it into only one company and one piece. Did you guys, it feels that way from the outside. Is that what really happened when you reached out to each other? Do you think that the collaboration made it stronger and try to do it all yourself and take all the credit and just use it as a sales tool? You're shaking your head, Seth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, all of us together is better than any one of us standing alone. So, I mean, that's a for sure thing. I think the risks from our side were relatively small because we knew we were going to spend it already. I feel like, Dallas, with us not having a relationship prior, I feel like that was a risk for you. And I know, like, Wes, I don't know if you had much risk with us working on it, more so just I was really worried of draining everyone's time. But I don't know, Wes, what are your thoughts?
I was anxious early on because we had this idea, but like most of the times there's a lot of great videos for explaining how synthesizers work, but they're all 5+ minutes long. And so the thing I was anxious about, I was like, can we actually make something meaningful and like squeeze it down enough? And will it work? So I think there was kind of that risk that we had to do. Like, we did a ton of pre-production on this thing to make sure that it would work. So maybe that was, I feel like there's that amount of risk. And then there was, I didn't after that point, there wasn't really much risk for me. Like, I feel like, Seth, you really took on most of that just because of the budget for animation, is so much heavier. Where I did a lot of the work, and then it was my team that kind of, like what Dallas is saying, it's like, well, over the course of the animation, we'll be able to find downtime to do this.
Yeah, I feel like the client that looks at a project at the level you guys did has security that they can give you a project, because they have to think, well, look, if you could do this without any direction, how awesome will it be when I give you my project and I'm collaborating with you? Then think I have to bring all the direction and all the vision, all the purpose to the meeting. So yeah, I love that part. Do you think this is going to be a series? Like, I'm kind of addicted. Can I put in some other things I want to learn about?
How deep are your pockets now?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm going to need at least a couple months of rest, and then maybe we'll see.
But like you guys have, it's like you established a template here that I feel like could be filled in. If you put a model to it, maybe you need a sponsorship to kind of keep it going. But is there a desire to keep it going, or to try something else, or to let someone else be in charge besides Wes and his gadgets? Do something about something.
I would be very excited about it. I mean, any project that has, meaning behind it, that I feel like, we're not just making one more thing for a tech company, I would love it, but I think, like, it all comes down to subject matter, timing, and all the fun things that nobody likes to talk about. But I mean, from my perspective, collaboration was lovely. I'm sure that, I could see something like that definitely happen again if you all would have me.
I don't think like Welcome to Synth like makes sense to keep doing, because like when we were originally doing this, I think Dallas, you put it this way, that's basically like, this is a teaser for synthesizers and for everything else. Like, I don't think this format is really ideal for like actually teaching synthesizers. Like,
no, the welcome to idea though is like, I can imagine hearing a welcome to video, or welcome to animation, or welcome to something that gets those big elements together and says it, because that package put together makes sense of here's some things, but the reality is explore, be creative. It's, the options are yours, and that you leave it in the person's hand to be inspired is kind of a great calling card.
Yeah, I think that kind of idea is really exciting. It is really cool because you kind of get to take the like most fun pieces of whatever it is that you're trying to welcome people to, and not worry so much about all the ruling details of how to actually do it.
Right. I think the format could definitely live on, but yeah, to echo you, Wes, yeah, I think as far as synthesizers, maybe we move on to different subject matter. But I think one of the pieces that I loved about the format too was just the suggestion of where to go next. Having some links that we'll have to curate those over time, I'm sure. But trying to raise more, giving some baseline and then raising some questions to the audience to kind of take their own next steps, because I feel like that's really what kind of pushes the envelope for anybody that's really trying to get involved.
Well, and Dallas, you could maybe speak to the podcast too, because this does tie in with 20,000 Hertz Synth Wars.
Yeah, so we all have what's cool about this as well. We all had distinct motivations for doing it. One, I'd been promising the podcast listeners for a long time that we were going to do something on YouTube. So we started to grow like a little audience with nothing on it. And so when it all came through, I was like, oh my goodness, this would be amazing for the YouTube channel. So what that's doing for on my side is I'm going to focus a lot on YouTube Shorts. So we're taking a lot of the information that we've discovered over the course of the years of doing the podcast, but make them into like 45-second little tall videos that are just very factual, hopefully in a way that we could kind of build that audience and then do that. But yeah, I think that the interesting thing is just we all had interesting motivations that were all interesting because we all have companies. But I think we all had motivations just from a creative standpoint too.
I'll say there's a whole community of people that are watching this now, will watch it later. It's almost like there's an open call that says, hey, this is how you actually get a project done, right? If you're going to be in this creative field, it doesn't have to be your initial idea for you to jump in and help someone else out. You can participate. But also we could just say, hey, the welcome to category is open. You guys did welcome to synth. Where's the rest of the community? Fill in the blanks. Let's make a 6-part series and have people jump in and put their own kind of spin on it. Give them a format and a start and end point. And Dallas's beautiful voiceover will kind of be the.
I would love to make one point that I just want to make because it's so important to me.
Yes.
This is the reason this is so cool. Is one, I mean, the animation's incredible. But one of the reasons this is so cool is because it was led by sound. We always we are so focused on like visual, script, and then we don't even think that like we have two human senses, the only two human senses we can play with in filmmaking and video making and animation is sight and sound. And so this is what something looks like if you entirely focus on sound first. And then I think that's the intangible that I don't think people quite get off the bat, but it's so fresh because it's an aspect of storytelling that is not usually birthed from.
Yeah, that's probably why it felt so on brand with a 20,000 Hertz is that it's sound and story. That's what you've done well on 20,000 Hertz. And the minute I saw this, it was sound, story, and then this visual presence that just it kind of fills in some of the blanks. Just when you did like the envelope and the low equi, I don't know, all those other things you're doing, but to have a visual representation, it almost kind of like locks in what you can't always accomplish in words, the picture part of it, that there's opportunity to kind of recognize where the real rubber hits the road.
Well, and that's how we started. We started at doing the soundtrack and a VO, so it was all audio. But we knew that animation, it allowed us to do this in such a much clearer way when you're connecting like what you're hearing to what you're seeing and the words. But yeah, it literally did start with just sound, because we needed to make sure that the structure and everything would work.
I feel like, Wes, we talked about that at one point about how it's sometimes frustrating that sound can sometimes seem like an afterthought, especially when it's driven by, someone buying an ad or what have you. And a lot of surfaces are silent. So it's like they think, well, audio is an option, or if it's playing back on a phone, the quality is just diminished drastically. But yeah, that marriage was very much a back and forth thing. I mean, I know, Wes, how many times have we passed things back and forth, you think? I mean, that was quite a lot.
Yeah, I can't count. I don't have that many fingers.
I know. Yeah, we're just trying to understand even just a certain part of the whole piece, you know, and just trying to figure out, like, for example, I know, Tim, you were just referencing the LFO. Like for me, I was like, what the hell is that? You know, but thank you, Wes, for the technical breakdown continually through the whole process.
No problem.
Yeah, I have
And I guess,
how many times you have those buttons that you have no, I have no idea what some of those things do, but I do know what sound it makes. But to have like the representation of what's actually happening was a great little tipping point.
That's part of the joy of getting involved with it. It's discovery, you know, to make some music.
Something kind of along these lines that maybe is worth saying is like, you know, for me, this project was a huge opportunity as someone who does sound and music for motion to have the opportunity to sort of lead the process. And so I guess I'm assuming like most of the people on the call here are, you know, run studios and that sort of thing. Like if you ever want to work with a composer or a sound designer, if you reach out to them and give them that opportunity, they will probably be thrilled to collaborate on that, because it's honestly, I keep saying like this project was probably like a once in a career kind of opportunity. So.
And Wes will post all of his friends' names and phone numbers in RevCommunity, so you can hit up each one of them for your project.
I mean, honestly, probably. Like seriously though, it's like the lift. If an animation studio is going to invest in something, it's like, I don't know, that's 80-90% of the budget right there. And so like none of us are, unless you're like, you know, Ant Food or someone really big, like we can't afford to like commission an animation studio to do a collaboration like this. So I would just think, encourage people not to be shy to reach out to folks.
Well, guys, I have to
Wes
say,
awesome.
Go ahead.
I was to say, reach out to Wes. He's awesome.
I agree.
Yeah, Wes, thanks for putting this on the map, getting things rolling here. So it's really awesome. We are past our time, so I have to say, on behalf of everyone, though, thank you guys for sharing this and putting this out there. It's really great. It doesn't happen often enough. So when it does happen, it's awesome to be able to share this and get it out there. And I'll say on behalf of others, congratulations as well. You got the job well done. You know, Seth, kind of the process that you're saying of investing forward, recognizing there's really a long-term strategy that you have to have in place to do this successfully. So to put that money aside, I call it calculated loss, that little piece you put aside to invest forward always is really awesome. So my hat's off to all you all. Congratulations. And thanks for being part of our program today. If we will post this again on inside of RevCommunity. If you're interested in seeing more, you can see the reference there too. We'll put the link there that we've shared in the chat room, but we'll also post it in community. So if you're watching a replay, it's there. Any parting words from anyone before we wrap it up?
Just gonna say a hearty amen. Thanks, Tim.
There you go.
Thanks, guys, for sharing all this for this. Yeah, great. I really enjoyed this audio only version.
Yeah, Joel's getting audio only, so you guys did well. All right, thanks guys, and we'll catch you all next week for the weekly briefing. Until then, have a great week.
Cool. Thank you.
See you all.